I now call Nurul of National Junior College to advance the case for the proposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I have two main points of contention. Firstly, which is the young workforce that Singapore needs, and secondly, the diversification of the economy. Now, on the young workforce, they have said that the healthcare needs of the young have to be fulfilled. And yes, we agree that the healthcare needs of the young have to be fulfilled. However, their needs are not as pressing as the healthcare needs of the elderly, which I will cover in my main substantive. And also, they have talked about the increased number of taxpayers and how this young workforce can contribute to the tax. They can contribute the tax and help the economy grow. And with these funds, we can help society as a whole. But ladies and gentlemen, even with economic growth, we aren't going to shoot up all of a sudden, and we can contribute so much more money to the elderly to cope with the aging population. Now, I'll move on to my second point of contention, which is the diversification of the economy. Now, I'm not very sure why the opposition have brought up a fixed mindset on the elderly, because it really does not relate to the matter today. Now, yes, we agree that the young will take over. However, I bring up again the aging population and that there are silver hair industries which hires the elderly people who are able to take care of themselves to contribute to the economy too. Now, that is the diversification of the economy. Now, let me...
Point, ma'am.
No, thank you, ma'am. Now, let me move on to my main substantive. I have three main points of concern. Firstly, the problem in the status quo. Secondly, how we can solve that problem. And thirdly, why we should solve this problem. So, let me go to my first area of concern, the problems in the status quo. The elderly are more prone to common illnesses such as fevers or colds, which may deteriorate and become some much serious problems such as pneumonia. Many of the elderly are also at high risk of contracting severe illnesses such as osteoporosis, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's, which the young are much less at risk of contracting. Now, the government has a duty of care to the people. But what are they doing about this? They have provided programs such as MediSave, like the previous speakers have mentioned, which allows the public to draw out funds in times of medical need, but only if they have the savings to do so in the first place. The government also provides subsidies. However, these are tedious to apply for. Now, why do I say so? They require information of such extreme detail that there is a long waiting time for the subsidy request to be processed. This tediousness and difficulty of applying, no, thank you, ma'am, for the subsidy may also discourage people from applying. A national survey has shown that 42% of the elderly are unable to accumulate such policies. Even if the elderly are covered by the insurance schemes, it may only be used for severe illnesses. This discourages the elderly from seeking medical attention for minor illnesses. The cost of kidney dialysis is between $2,600 and $3,000 a month, but the elderly still have to pay $2,200 for the treatment, and this is way too expensive for them to afford. This shows that even when used, the current schemes are ineffective and insufficient. Clearly, more needs to be done. So now that we have seen what the problem is, let us now look at my second point on how we can solve the problem. Let us first take a look at how the basic needs of the young have already been fulfilled. Like the first proposition team has mentioned, the government has spent $6.966 billion on education for the young alone. There is a lot of money allocated to the education, and this is used in unnecessary ways, such as building sports halls when schools already have school halls and tracks for physical education. It is obvious that much more can be done for the elderly. Let's look at the third concern now. Why should we solve this problem? It is the mandate of the government to take care of the welfare of every age group in society. It is even more important for the government to step into this issue particularly, as the elderly may not have anyone to take care of them. Their children being unwilling or unable to do so due to the lack of time, financial ability, or simply not knowing how to fulfill the special needs of the elderly. With the aging population, this problem is indeed a growing one and is indeed a pressing issue that needs to be solved now before it gets worse. Therefore, as even the most basic needs of the elderly has not been fulfilled, in contrast to the youngs, the elderly's needs not only should but must take precedence over the needs of the young. Thank you.
I now call Minerva from Methodist Girls' School to advance the case for the opposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2 points of contention with the proposition for today. Firstly, they're on the whole idea of the problem in our status quo. And secondly, on the whole idea of their characterization of the young. Now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the first rebuttal for today, they're on the whole idea of the problem in the status quo. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what they have brought to us today is that the status quo, all the existing measures in the status quo today, for example, MediSave, are not effective, they are too difficult to apply for, the subsidies are not working, etc., etc. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the first place, let us point out to you that the very fact that these systems, that these measures are in place, show that the elderly are already well taken care of. And secondly, moving on to the fact that even if these systems, as they say, are ineffective, are not working well, then what we should focus on, ladies and gentlemen, is to improve these systems. For example, if subsidies, as they say, are too slow, are too difficult to apply for, then what we should focus on today, ladies and gentlemen, is actually improving the process of applying for a subsidy. It's actually improving all the administration process and making it easier, creating more access for our elderly, no thank you, madam, to achieve such systems. And we say that this solution is better and not simply just pumping in money, which will go to no end at all. And now moving on to my second point of contention, there on the whole idea of the characterization of the young, ladies and gentlemen. What they have told us today is that the young have a lot of money channeled into their education system. They have sports halls, they have music halls, etc., etc., which are not necessary, they are not needed, they are redundant. But ladies and gentlemen, we ask you today, who are the young in our society? We say that the young are the future of Singapore. They are the people who are going to lead us in the future. They are people who are going to make the differences and lead Singapore to a brighter tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. And so we say that they are the people we must focus on first. And we say that by providing schemes such as the baby bonus, by providing incentives for parents to have children, ladies and gentlemen, what we say is that we are actually improving society as a whole. We are actually caring for the better society and we are working towards societal stability. Why do we say so, ladies and gentlemen? Because we say that in the future, as I will be illustrating on in my substantive, when we do not care for the young, what happens is that we actually create a culture of over-reliance on the government, as I'll be illustrating later, and this is actually not for the greater good. And in addition, the young today in our society are actually the silent minority. They have no voice, ladies and gentlemen. They don't even have a vote. All they do, they have the parents. And this is exactly why we must listen to them and we must pay attention to them. Yes, madam.
It is precisely because they have their parents to fulfill certain needs for them that the elderly's needs are more pressing.
Madam, the very fact that the very reason why they have their parents to speak for them is because they are so voiceless. They don't even have the vote, ladies and gentlemen. The elderly have a vote, they have a union to speak for them, and that's why we say that they are represented enough. Now, moving on to my substantive for today, I will be analysing this debate from the perspective of the parents of these very young to show as to why their children deserve to be prioritised over the elderly, ladies and gentlemen. The voices of the parents are important because they are a large stakeholder in shaping national policies. Only by taking their concerns into account do we solve pressing problems, specifically that of an ageing population. However, the solution to this problem is not just to keep prioritising the needs of the elderly over that of the young, ladies and gentlemen. Spending more money on the old is merely a short-term solution. Allocating more money to the needs of the young is the only way to create a baby boom. This is the best method to incentivize parents to have more children and thus help solve the problem of an aging population. For example, by increasing the baby bonus to young adults and increasing subsidies for education costs to lighten the burden upon parents, as was announced in 2007. Or perhaps even subsidizing companies that allow women to go on maternity leave. And we want to continue these kinds of policies because we feel that there are many benefits to be achieved from them. Firstly, young parents will be more willing to settle down. They will be incentivized to have more children, as the financial burden of raising a child will be significantly lower. It is only when you change the cost-benefit ratio of young parents would they be more receptive to have children. This is the only direct, effective, and long-term solution. of solving the problem when more resources and policies are allocated towards the parents and their children, and this creates a willingness on their part to contribute to a baby boom in the future. The second reason why parents play such an integral role is because they best articulate the needs of the children. They are most proximate to the children and can understand best what is in their interest. Most importantly, the interests of the parents are aligned in tandem with state goals. This is because when the state prioritizes the needs of the young as what parents seek, the state benefits as well. For example, when more money is spent on the young become more educated. They then become less dependent on welfare systems. And so, ladies and gentlemen, all we want to do in the society today is work towards social stability. So let's do that. Let's go with the proposition.